Entering the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast. I'm your host, Paul Shaughnessy. Remember to give the show a like, do all that stuff. Also, we want you to get in the comment section. Tell us who you like above $9,000, $9,000 and above, and who you like below $8,000 in terms of locks on the card. I am joined by your friend and mine, Mr. Cody Saftic, to break down the first card in a long time that we're like super jazzed about. We come in here, we talk about fights every single week, and sometimes it's just like, it's just hard to get excited about it. This card, whether certain fights should be on pay-per-view and certain fights shouldn't be on pay-per-view, who cares? I'm watching every single fight on Fight Night Singapore. You know what I mean? So like, it doesn't matter where it's located on the card. This has like awesome fights from top to bottom, and I'm excited to be back into a zone where we actually have top-notch fights the whole way.
Yeah, I think every week we're dealing with a lot of debuting fighters or just bottom-of-the-barrel type competition. And now, for the first time in a long time, you get, quality fighters. You get quality names that you've heard of. The fact that something like CM Punk and Mike Jackson does on the main card allows you to get some sweet undercard fights as well. The fact that Joseph Benavidez, and Sergio Pettis is on the Fight Pass undercard, crazy. And I think, we get excited every week about the fights because we like watching fights. But now it's a card that, people they don't mind paying for, that they'll get excited for. And that should lead to some good fireworks. Plus, and I hate to say this because this is not necessarily a good thing, but this is an evenly matched card, man. Last week, went 11-1, got the main event wrong. Outside of that, it's like you could kind of see a lot of those outcomes happening. Whereas here, man, the locks on the card, not so much. So I'm very glad to be here to be able to debate it with you, Paul.
All right, let's get right into the action then. There's two title fights on the card. The first one, the main event, a rematch. We got Robert the Reaper Whittaker taking on Yoel, Soldier of God Romero. Robert Whittaker, 9,100 on DraftKings, minus 240 on the betting line. Yoel Romero is 7,100 and plus 200 on the betting line. We said this before. This is the Chael Sondenism that I always say when we run into this type of situation. When a fighter takes on another fighter and beats them the first time and they rematch, the younger fighter, if they won the first time, wins the second time, only easier. Yoel Romero, that was a perfect situation for him the last time that they fought. Robert Whittaker was hurt early in that fight. He's gimping around, and it still didn't matter. Robert Whittaker's tough enough. His takedown defense is so elite.
That is
so
true.
good. Like you look at some of the clips there. It's just like Yoel is a tremendous, maybe one of the best wrestlers, natural wrestlers that we've ever seen inside of the octagon. And Robert Whittaker's just shucking him off like it's nothing. And this is on like a bad leg, everything like that. Yoel, the one thing that he always has, and you can consider him like maybe a GPP punt. He always is a GPP punt because the guy hits hard enough, he's athletic enough, that maybe he has an explosive moment. But if he's going to win this fight, it's happening probably in the first couple of rounds. When we get to round 3, Whittaker, as we saw last time, is just going to be able to pile it on. And last fight, it was a quote-unquote close fight, but it was very clear at the end of the fight. It's just like, Romero won rounds 1 and 2, and Whittaker won rounds 3, 4, and 5 decisively. Everyone was basically on the same page about that, and I think it's very similar. I think Whittaker may actually finish him. If you did like Romero, I would say maybe a GPP punt. If you're putting in a lot of lineups, you could play him. I don't know if I'm going to myself. I'm pretty firmly in belief that Robert Whittaker is going to get the win here. Again, and maybe even easier and get the finish. But if you were going to bet Yoel Romero plus 300 inside the distance, like I know it's only 100 points on your dollar, but like I would just take it. I don't see him winning a decision against Robert Whittaker. So like that's essentially all my take on this fight. I think it's going to be similar, but Romero, we know he struggles with his weight cut in general. He obviously, lost his last fight and wasn't able to do it. He won his last fight, but he wasn't able to make weight in the process. So all of these things said together, like just him inside the distance is the only thing that's even worth doing. Like, he's not winning a decision against Robert Whittaker, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think it comes down to the cardio, and that's being Robert Whittaker's advantage. The last time they fought, it's very clear that Yoel Romero is as good of a fighter, a better athlete than Robert Whittaker in those first 2 rounds. In those first 2 rounds, he decisively wins. But after that, I don't know if he's trying to conserve energy or if he's just flat out gassed, but he gets these big lulls of inactivity where he doesn't throw much. He conserves his energy, and then when he explodes, we all know how this guy explodes. But the later fights go for him, that's where it doesn't pan out. If he's going out there and he's flying knee against Chris Weidman, huge victory. If he's going out there and he's catching Luke Rockhold in the second round, that's how he gets his wins. He goes out there, he uses that speed advantage, he uses that wrestling, he uses that explosive, fast twitch muscle, gets to you early, hits you, hurts you. He's got a tremendous amount of power, and then he's able to take you out. In the fights that are going longer than that, say his fight against Jacare Souza, where again, he knocks Jacare down in the first round, second and third, he starts to tire. By the end, I kind of thought Jacare won that fight, but all the same, it's a close fight because he tires. Last fight with Whittaker, same thing. First 2 rounds, he's good. If that's a 3-round fight, he wins. He wins a 29-28 against Robert Whittaker, no doubt about it. The fact that it's a 5-round, that's what causes him to have to go into those deeper waters, and traditionally we just haven't seen him swim when he gets out to that uncharted territory. The other thing is that he's getting older. I mean, he was old to begin with.
41 years old. He doesn't look like a 41-year-old.
No, he's the best looking 41-year-old you've ever seen, but there's no doubt about it that if you had spotty cardio,
right.
yeah, somebody's doing something right for sure. If you got spotty cardio at 39, 40 years old, it's not suddenly getting better. He'll try to conserve himself, but again, in a 5-round fight, you're just not going to be able to do that. The biggest thing with Robert Whittaker is that takedown defense. This is a guy that transitioned to MMA, not coming from a wrestling base.
From rugby.
Yeah, from rugby. He fights professionally for a while, and then just as of recently, he's tried out for the Australian Pan American wrestling team, and apparently, allegedly, had a spot on the team. They were like, this guy can wrestle. And he does get taken down 4 times against Yoel Romero in the previous meeting, but it's 4 times on 18 attempts. Yep. Those 18 attempts is what tires you out, which allows you to style this guy the later fights go. So I agree, $7,100, if you're looking for a GPP punt, well, yeah, Yoel Romero might go into this fight and think, I got to hurt this guy
He's
early.
got a shot.
Of course he does.
He always has a shot against anybody. Anybody in the world at 185 pounds, Yoel Romero has a shot in those first couple of rounds, or first few rounds, I guess.
And we've seen Robert Whittaker be vulnerable at points. We've seen him get completely rocked against Derek Brunson and recover and able to live to tell the tale. We've seen him hurt his leg against Yoel Romero in their last fight and, fight his way through it and live to tell the tale. In that 5th round, Yoel Romero comes at him, but he's just good enough on one leg to defeat this man. So I have no reason to believe it'll be the same thing. And then to think back about, geez, you know what? Yoel did win those first 2 rounds the last time. Going back to your point about the younger champion defeating the older fighter and then being a rematch, it almost reminds me of Max Holloway versus Jose Aldo.
Yep.
Aldo won the first 2 rounds. The fact is that he's no longer built to go 5 hard rounds. The younger, quicker, better athlete, and I'm not saying better athlete like he's not doing backflips. I just mean he's the younger, fresher guy. He's going to hurt him standing. He's going to pick him apart. He's going to stuff those takedowns. He's going to make him work, and he's going to get the victory. Now it's the rematch. If Yoel Romero doesn't win the first 2 rounds, if this is a Bobby Knuckles showcase, I'm not completely surprised either. So both guys, it's a way easier cut for Robert Whittaker than it's going to be for Yoel Romero, being that Robert Whittaker has fought as low as 170 pounds and is good for 185, but doesn't overly struggle with the weight cuts. It is a tough cut still. But Yoel Romero, I mean, we're very quick to point out the fact that he knocked out Luke Rockhold in his last fight. Well, 2 things there. It's Luke Rockhold, a shot diminished version of the chinny Luke Rockhold. And second of all, yeah, he missed weight. I mean, how impressive can that realistically be? This is a real title fight. This is headlining a big pay-per-view. The UFC knows you just missed. You've got to make it. And making that little bit extra is going to allow him to not have a reservoir of energy to rely on comes 3, 4, and 5. So I got to go with Robert Whittaker to get the job done here. And a very exciting fight. Looking forward to it.
Well, we have another title fight here. We move on to the welterweight division. The interim welterweight championship of the world is on the line when Rafael dos Anjos takes on Colby Chaos Covington. 8,200 for dos Anjos, 8,000 for Covington, -110 right across the board. Straight pick 'em. Who you got?
Well, I'll take the hate initially by saying I don't mind Colby Covington. I know everybody absolutely hates the guy, but he's almost like a breath of fresh air, like a toxic breath of air. Maybe not exactly fresh, but he's something different. He's somebody that's going to go out there. He talks a whole lot of smack. He's a lightning rod. He's a polarizing character. A lot of people hate him, but he's playing the heel. This guy likes pro wrestling. Trust me. He had stints with TNA. He was involved in an American Top Team versus TNA stars, or I guess it's Impact Wrestling. He gets it. He likes to cut a promo. He realizes that he's Colby Covington, former Oregon State wrestler, spent some time in Ohio. There's nothing super interesting about him. Good wrestler. He does finish fights. If he just puts on a pace on guys, there's nothing sexy about it. He actually won a number of fights when he first came to the UFC by late finish. Takes out Meunier late. Takes out Max Griffin late. Takes out Wang late. Takes these guys late. It's exciting for people that are hardcore fans, but the casual viewer just doesn't care. So he talks a lot of outrageous games. Apparently has sex with a bunch of porn stars.
Does he have sex with a bunch of porn stars?
I want to give him the benefit of the doubt.
With, what's
I want to give him the benefit of the doubt.
He's like, who is that guy? He's like, he's a porn producer or something, but he's friends with, I forget who he works with. He works with like he's friends with like the Diaz brothers or something like that. It's like, his name's like Mikey. No, he was Kimbo Slice's old boy.
Oh, Icy Mike.
Icy Mike.
Yeah, because he's a Florida guy.
So, yeah, he's friends with Icy Mike. Icy Mike like produces all of these things for him. So like, he gets these girls to come over, or they're probably at Icy Mike's place or something like that, and then he just posts these videos. I think the videos are hilarious.
Can I ask you a quick question, though, Paul? Can I ask you a quick question? I'm not disagreeing with you. I just want to know. Just want to clarify right before we finish up this conversation. If a porn star comes over and she's not there to have sex, she's there for this comical little bit because your boy's there. Yeah. But if you pay $1,000 to have sex with her, did you still have sex with her? He's probably not getting this for free, as he says. He probably doesn't have ladies hanging on him. But is he paying and getting a little something on the side? Quite possibly.
Hey, we wouldn't.
So the main thing is, as much as people hate him and they're probably betting against him because they don't like him, I like the guy. I find him entertaining. But I think this is a terrible stylistical matchup for him. If this is him versus Tyron Woodley, shockingly enough, I think he breaks down Tyron Woodley. But this isn't Tyron Woodley. This is Rafael Dos Anjos,
I think this is a good stylistic matchup for him.
I don't know, because his style of wearing on guys and tiring them, I don't think is going to work against a guy in Rafael Dos Anjos that at 170 has got gas. We saw what he did against Robbie Lawler in later rounds.
He had gas at 155 as well.
Yeah, he fought Tony Ferguson a mile high in Mexico City, over a mile high, against great gas tanks. So
I think his size is finally going to catch up with him in this fight against a big, stocky, strong collegiate wrestler in Colby Covington.
If the majority of the fight ends up staying standing,
it's going to be up against the cage. It's going to be greasy. It's going to be dirty, and he's going to take him down.
Colby Covington's got that.
Colby was able to take down Damian Maia. What was Maia able to do? Maia wasn't able to do anything to him on the ground.
But standing, Damian Maia, yes, the Damian Maia that you're thinking of, that Damian Maia, old man too, was able to cut him up. He was able to land shots on him. He was able to tag him. He was able to make him bleed. And then he tires out, as Damian Maia at his advanced age is known to do, and Colby Covington's allowed to use that size and wear on him. I don't know that you can do that with Dos Anjos because he's been in wars. He's been at this level. He's fought in guys that are better than Colby Covington in probably every, domain. Colby Covington will go out there and try to use the size to get those takedowns. But what happens if those takedowns don't come? Another thing, too, is that Colby Covington is not some fantastic grappler. Yeah, he didn't get submitted by Damian Maia, but you can't just look at that and say the guy's got amazing submission defense. Worley Alves, his only loss, it's really the only time we can look at him being susceptible to that. He got caught, absolutely. But Rafael Dos Anjos is still a black belt. He's a guy that has a nasty head and arm choke. He's a guy that if your game plan is wear on this guy and take him down, you're at least a little bit playing with fire. If it stays at range or it stays standing or you fail to get those takedowns, it's going to be Rafael Dos Anjos. And as much as Colby Covington seems to have a phenomenal gas tank, we don't know what 4 and 5 are going to look like. I would imagine good. I would imagine good.
We talk about this all the time.
I would imagine good, but I don't know.
When we get to the end of round 3, this guy hasn't looked like he's slowing down. Why would we believe that he's going to slow down rounds 4 and 5? He's going to look similar at the beginning of round 4 as he did in round 3 against Damian Maia.
Fair, but when you look at Dos Anjos, let's say the Tony Ferguson fight, the later rounds, he seems to be okay. The Robbie Lawler fight, later rounds, he seems to be okay. The time he absolutely thrashed Anthony Pettis, he looked in the 5th round like he did in the 1st round. The guy's got a phenomenal gas tank. So if Colby Covington's best asset is his wrestling, his grinding, and his ability to take you into deep waters and drown you, that cardio advantage. If that's off the table, now he's only got the wrestling advantage. And do I believe that he can out-wrestle Rafael Dos Anjos in spots? Yeah, probably. He'll get some takedowns. But Dos Anjos is going to get up, and when he gets up, he's going to hit him. When he hit him, he's going to hurt him. My last point on it is Covington got the nickname Chaos. Apparently it's from his mom because he was a very chaotic kid growing up. But when he first got to the UFC, he's just a wrestler. But when he opts to strike, he's very wild, man. Like, he'll throw a head kick and then shoot right to a double leg. He'll throw loopy hooks. He's a guy that you can counter because he's going to try to throw some heat on you to close that distance. And I'm just hoping that Rafael dos Anjos is able to counter on him, hit him, hurt him. His body kick is nasty. Yeah, Covington's going to try to catch it and drive him to the ground, but he's going to zap energy out of him with that body kick. He's going to hurt him. This is a level that Colby Covington hasn't been at. Generally, the guys that he's been, low level. The one feather in his cap, Damian Mayo. But this is
He smashed him. He smashed him. He absolutely smashed him.
But it's a different style altogether.
You don't want to give Colby any sort of...
I like Colby. Colby's my guy.
You hate Colby.
I like money more than I like Colby. Hey, listen, if I want to have sex with those same porn stars Colby Covington's having sex with, I need to make some money. And making that money might revolve around betting against Colby Covington. So I think Rafael dos Anjos at $8,200, it's a 5-round fight. He could definitely score a lot. Colby Covington at $8,000. If this is the guy that you're going to put your hat on, not the worst pick in the world. It should be a relatively close fight. Should be a close enough fight. He's going to be able to score a lot for $8,000. I feel like the winning lineup could have one of these guys for sure.
We move on to the featherweight division. The women's featherweight division.
It's still the featherweight division.
Well, it says featherweight division.
It's all the same.
It says featherweight division on the board. Okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
We got Holly Holm taking on Megan Anderson. Holly Holm 8,900 on DraftKings, minus 235 on the betting line. Megan Anderson 7,300 plus 195. I think DraftKings perspective here, 8,900 is just too much to pay for Holly Holm. Her style is just not very DraftKings friendly, and especially when it's 89, she's just a little bit overpriced. If she was around like 8,000, I'm starting to consider it, because maybe she can get up to 80, but getting over 90 with her style in a 3-round fight, not exactly very likely. Megan Anderson, I think, is just a total hype job. I don't really see anything that I'm really impressed by. I know she's a big buy. It's the first like real featherweight that Holly Holm has taken on.
Well, she fought Cyborg her last fight. So
besides Cyborg, besides the GOAT.
The biggest and best featherweight of them all.
Honestly, I think Holly Holm would be should be like minus 500 in this spot. So I think you can. Megan Anderson started training at the age of 23.
Fair. I'm not
Holly
saying
Holm was like much younger. She's been a multiple time boxing champion. She's been the UFC champion. She's only hanging minus 235 against someone. I'm not too afraid of anybody knocking out Holly Holm. She has a chin. She's been able to take damage. She went 5 rounds with Cyborg. You think she can't go 5 rounds here? I just don't see how Megan Anderson beats Holly Holm even in a 3-round fight. I love Holly Holm as a parlay piece. I don't really like her on DraftKings, though. I think the price is just too much. I don't think that she scores a lot, but I think she wins clearly. I'd be interested to see what the Holm by decision prop is, though.
Yeah, you assume when you get a Holm fight, outside of maybe the Ronda Rousey performance, Holm by decision is the play. She doesn't really seem to have stopping power. Now that she's going up to 145 pounds, or, now she's competing at 145, whatever power she had at 135 is a lot less taking on those bigger bodies. The one thing that Anderson has, obviously, is size. She's a big gal. I think she comes in around the 6-foot mark. I've seen her listed at less. I've seen her listed at more, but all the same, this is a girl that cannot make 135, has a rough enough time making 145. She's a big girl. I agree with you on so many of those points. Holly Holm is the better fighter. Holly Holm has been around a lot longer. She's trained at a much more significant level. Megan Anderson is as hype job gets. She is literally just right place, right time. That's all. She wins the Invicta title, but her last 2 opponents in Invicta are Charmaine Tweet, Canada's own, and Peggy Morgan. That is the unbelievably lowest of the low level that you could possibly compete at. Those are her last 2 fights. She hasn't fought in a year and a half now. She's had visa trouble. She's had a small minor injuries on the side. She's been sidelined. But now you're coming back into it, and they were talking about her fighting Cyborg. All it was is that Cyborg has no way to fight. She'll fight anybody.
Cyborg's fought Yana Kunitskaya. She's fought Lena Landsberg. They have been not afraid to give her cans constantly.
Yeah, but that's because it's not that they're giving her cans, is they're giving her the next available fighter, and they just happen to be cans
nobody wants to fight her.
Comparison to Cyborg.
Yeah.
And Megan Anderson is the exact same thing. She's the Invicta champ. That's the only reason. If she was just a regular fighter, it wouldn't be able to sell it. But the fact is, she's Invicta's champ. We've seen how many Invicta champs have made that proper transition to the UFC and had success. Why can't Megan Anderson? I agree with all that. Another thing on Holly Holm I think is very interesting. Her last fight against Cyborg, current world champion. Prior to that, Betch Gohea, world title challenger. Jermaine Durandamy, former world champion. Valentina Shevchenko, former title challenger, future world champion. Misha Tate, former world champion. Ronda Rousey, former world champion. And she fought Raquel Pennington, who's a former world title challenger. She only fights the absolute best available girls. She moves up weight classes. She is a warrior. I think she gets this win. The thing is, so unbelievably untrustworthy.
Yeah, but she's been untrustworthy against really, really, really elite fighters.
Yeah, but the thing is that she's non-committal.
Elite.
Fair, but she's non-committal on being aggressive. She's a counterpuncher. That's what she wants to do.
Good. Megan Anderson basically just barges forward. This just falls right into her lap.
Fair, but all I'm saying is that if you look at traditionally Holly Holm fights that end up being stinkers, is that when she's unable to just, she closes that distance very well, but she doesn't tag you. She'll go the ha ha ha. Sounds like a tennis game, right? You hear the feinting a lot, you hear the motion going on, but the punches never quite connect. That's why she's not a good play for the price on DK. Absolutely.
Terrible play.
Because even if she wins, she's not going to land any more than say 60 significant strikes plus the victory. You're not going to get your money's worth.
Agreed.
But if you look at certain fights where the Cyborg fight, I mean, they say it's close in the scorecards, but I didn't see it in that Cyborg, so let's throw that one out the window. But say her versus Jermaine Durandamy or her versus Valentina Shevchenko. She does not connect, Paul, on absolutely anything. I thought she won versus Durandamy, but all the same, when you're coming up short on your punches and you're getting hit by the larger athlete, maybe it does a little more damage.
Also against somebody who's a lifelong martial artist.
Fair, but
didn't start training at 23.
But they're boring, lackluster fights.
I agree with all these things. But she's gonna win a boring decision against Megan Anderson.
Yeah, but you never know who's sitting there cage side saying, "Geez, nothing really happened in this round. I guess the bigger shot was landed by the bigger fighter who countered her that one time." It's a 3-rounder, man. That stuff's dicey. That's why at 230, like, I'm tempted. But if it was minus 500, there's no way. Because I think she
should be that. I don't know if there'd be any value at that price.
I don't trust her, especially at that price. But she's non-trustworthy to me. There's no doubt she's been around the block. But this is a girl that's got 15 MMA fights on top of her near 40 fight pro boxing career, on top of the fact that she comes from a kickboxing base to begin with, training with elite fighters for a very long time. She's not the same Holly Holm that she used to be. And even then, you can argue that outside of the Ronda Rousey fight, she hasn't exactly had a spectacular career inside of the UFC. Ronda Rousey was another hype job. I think Holm gets the win. I agree with you there. I'm just saying, I don't love Holly Holm in this spot.
I like her just as a parlay piece. I think she cruises to victory in this spot. Anyway, we are going to move to the heavyweight division. We have Tai Tuivasa taking on Andrei Arlovski. Tuivasa 9,300 and minus 270. Andrei Arlovski 6,900 and plus 230. Anyone who's new to the program needs to know that Cody hates Tai Tuivasa with a passion.
I don't hate him. I just tend to fade him. And
you faded him every single time.
It's been twice.
And he knocks out people in the first round. He has 110 DraftKings points as an average in his 2 fights. I said from the get-go, this guy's a big guy. He's a big fat guy.
Good athlete.
The boy can move. For a big, heavy boy, he can move. Now he's getting the Andrei Arlovski treatment. Who else did they give Andrei Arlovski to? Oh, Francis Ngannou. They gave it to what's his face, Junior Albini.
Overeem.
They try to give the up and coming prospects in the heavyweight division to Andrei Arlovski. Try to get the prospect to make a name off of him. You have guys like Ngannou, who pass it with flying colors, and then you have guys like Albini, who have been proven to basically be frauds afterwards, and they don't pass the test. I'm going to say it right here. I think Tuivasa is going to close that distance at some point, and even though Andrei Arlovski is the more technical, well-rounded, experienced fighter, I think this kid Tuivasa can crack, and I think he catches that chin on Andrei Arlovski. Arlovski's still going to keep his job around here because they are using him as the stepping stone now to get to that elite, to get into the top 10 of the heavyweight division. And they need some stars down in Australia. Tuivasa, the guy drinks beer out of a shoe. It's called a shoey. I'd never heard of a shoey until he knocked out his last opponent. And drinking someone poured a beer into just a random shoe, and he was not afraid to drink that beer out of the shoe. This guy's an Australian star. He's gonna get the knockout. 9,300. It's super expensive. You need that first round knockout,
which is a likely outcome.
That's what this guy does. Yeah. He's going for broke. He looks like he can take some damage from what we've seen. Except obviously there was that fight against Peter Graham way back in the day, but. I think Tuivasa gets the job done here and by knockout. He's a guy, probably not a cash game type of play by any stretch of the imagination, but he should be a stalwart in GPP lineups. What's your take?
Yeah, it's crazy. I've definitely faded this guy in his first 2 fights.
He doesn't want you on your team if you're going to be picking Tai Tuivasa here, by the way.
If I switch my pick to Tai Tuivasa, if I take him,
maybe I'll pick Arlovski.
I know. I was going to say he's going to get Saftic. if I jump on the bandwagon while it's already rolling out of the station, wheels are falling off. No doubt about it. Yeah, I faded him in his first 2 UFC fights because if you watch tape on the guy, he seems to be a good athlete. He comes from a rugby background, played high end, could have gone even farther, but came to MMA. Family are MMA fighters, trains with the best guys that are available to him, is a big guy, moves well for the weight class, packs an absolute heater of a punch. He seems to have good things going for him. The reason why I faded him, he doesn't look like he's got more than really 1 round of cardio in him. And yeah, the Peter Graham fight, you see where he's got some massive holes in his game. You watch a kickboxing fight between him and Ismail Lazar, same thing. He's just got massive holes in him.
Though.
He's a young guy, and you never know when you're training in New Zealand, when you're training, spending some time in Australia, how much are you going to make progress? How much are you going to advance? But again, when you're training with guys, old veterans like Mark Hunt and James Tuhuna, when you're working with some of those new breed guys, when you're starting to, they got a developing scene down there, and because they come from that Samoan culture, and that, they have big bodies to work with.
He's Aboriginal, actually.
Well, there you go.
But his crew is a bunch of Samoan
is a bunch of large Samoan guys that he's got big bodies to work with. So yeah, part of it is I want to fade him because I'm like, this guy's not as good as the hype is. But the problem is, I'm being a fucking dumbass and betting Rashad Coulter and Cyril Asker. Like, come on, man. You gotta fade him, but why are you fading him against cannon fodder, the worst of the worst? So that's my problem. And whereas Arlovski's now like, oh, dude, here's a former champion. Here's a guy that's been ranked in the top 10 for a long time, a guy that's definitely a top 15 fighter coming off a 2-fight winning streak. Oh, this is where you should fade him. It's like, oh, dude, it's Arlovski, one of the chinniest guys in the division. And for that, it's worrisome. Arlovski's got a path to victory in doing what probably the other 2 guys should have done, and that's grapple. Because Arlovski had Greg Jackson Winklejohn, he's trying to strike a lot more. He's getting hit by younger, faster, more explosive athletes, and his chin can't hold up. But since he switched to ATT, you see the Junior Albini fight, he's not in any type of worry. He stays on the outside a lot of it. He can clinch up with these guys. And then the same thing with Stefan Struve. Stefan Struve is a large guy, a good kickboxer. Close that distance with him, hold him up against the cage, get takedowns on him, tire him out, bust those, obviously you can't say Struve's a prospect at this point, but yeah, they're using him as that stepping stone opponent. If Tai Tuivasa is as good as, a lot of people are suggesting he might be,
stronger is the issue.
Then he could get that first round knockout on Arlovski. But if he doesn't knock out Arlovski in the first round and it goes rounds 2 and round 3 and Arlovski starts wearing on this guy, then all of a sudden it's like maybe he can just tire him out, maybe he can get a couple takedowns.
Those first 7.5 minutes are gonna be trying times for Andre Arlovski.
Yeah, because when I try to run this fight in my head, like maybe if they fight 10 times, Arlovski's able to get some takedowns and tire him out and just avoid that big bomb 2 of those 10 times. But the other 8 times reminds me of Brett Rogers, Andre Arlovski, where it's like, man, Andre Arlovski has way more experience. Brett Rogers is like, I'm gonna run straight at you, wing some bombs. You're gonna move straight backwards because you're not gonna pick a pivot off your feet. You're not gonna cut an angle and get out of the way. Something happens to land, and when you land on Andre Arlovski, he goes down. Outside of the Travis Brown fight, when he goes down, he typically don't get back up. But it's heavyweights, right? And they're not exactly high-ranked heavyweights. They're almost, you could consider, middling heavyweights. One guy on his way down, one guy clearly on his way up. So is that the most trustworthy thing in the world? No, but I think for the first time, I'm kind of leaning towards Tai Tuivasa, which means #Safdict, he's cursed. You want to avoid this.
Don't do this to my boy Tai. Stop it.
9,300 is a lot of money too, but if you think he'll get the first round knockout, which is definitely a possibility.
I think he's a GPP.
He'd be a GPP player.
You need to have a little bit of, the guy's averaging 110 points, as we said at the beginning here. It's like, if he gets that first round knockout, there's probably a knockout or a first round, 90 points, plus another 10 points. It all adds up.
You know what another thing
plus
is?
Some other strikes, like he's getting 105.
Another thing that I like about him in this situation is that the mentality of the guy, because he's still young, and he's brash, and he's, basically undefeated and just smashes everybody. The mentality on him is just like, man, I don't want to fight more than 1 round. I'm going to go in there. He basically said that with Cyril Asker, like, man, I just want to go out there, smash this fool as quick as possible, and get out. It's like perfect. If you start second guessing yourself and being like, oh man, Andre's been around and he's a decent striker, and you respect him in there, you're going to get Donald Cerrone. You give this guy respect and he needs respect because he's a chinny motherfucker. But if you go in there with that same mentality of just like, I want to take this guy out, then yeah, Tai Tuivasa could definitely do that and get that first round knockout. But again, I'm just, I feel half worried on it.
We move on down the card. We have Mike the Truth Jackson taking on CM Punk. 0-1 fighters. Throwing it down on the pay-per-view of obviously CM Punk wrestling credentials brings a whole different following that is going to buy this pay-per-view. Like, I'm not the type of guy to go, oh, why is he on the pay-per-view?
I don't care. Like, yeah, whatever.
I understand. It's a business, man. They're trying to make money. You have CM Punk on the card. 8,600 for Mike the Truth Jackson, minus 230 on the betting line. CM Punk is 7,600 and plus 190 respectively. Who you got?
Yeah, I used to watch fights like this basically all the time. I actually got Volume 2 DVD box set of bum fights, and you see lots of stuff like this all the time. Yeah. I just want to play a fictional scenario for you, right? Because this is just one of my little theories on it. I wanted to have your friend Pogi Rob on the show because I want to ask him on this as well.
He listens to every program.
Well, perfect. I tried to get Pogi Rob on the show, all I'm saying. But let's say you were to fight Pogi Rob right now, okay? Paul, you don't get a nickname like One Punch Paul without having a little steam in your hands.
Well, Rob has a broken ankle right now, so I would have a big advantage. Rob is actually, he's got that like Polish, like that weird Polish strength. He's a pretty strong guy.
All I'm saying is you got some striking, you got some grappling. I seen you out grapple Mayo one time. You ended up winning that fight due to DQ. He had to resort to try to gouge you in the eyes to get out of mount. Hilarious situation. All I'm saying is, let's say you can beat Rob right now. You're a better striker than him. You're a better fighter than him. Perfect. Now, you got to go back to your everyday job. You got to come in here. You got to cut shows. You got to switch. You got to edit. You've worked long days. Absolutely. Afterwards, let's say you're able to get to the gym 2, maybe 3 times a week. You do a little kickboxing, do a little boxing. That's fine. Rob, meanwhile, let's say Rob's well off. He's loaded. He sits at home all day. He's got personal trainers and he's got a conditioning and he goes to the gym 2 times a day. And he's got Duke Rufus and all these guys at Omega's gym saying, hey, this is your schedule this week. These are the training partners that we're bringing in that are specific to this guy. And you do this for 2 or 3 years. And then you meet Rob again in this, let's say it's a rematch. The advancements that he would make, not saying you're not the better fighter, it's just you don't really have that outlet. CM Punk is a terrible fighter, but Mike Jackson's a terrible fighter. The thing is, Mike Jackson is slightly, in my opinion, probably slightly a better fighter. This is a guy that at least boxed in the Golden Glove tournament in Texas. This guy's at least got some kickboxing experience. This guy's at least, got his hand raised in a fight situation at least. CM Punk has none of those things. But over the last couple of years, CM Punk goes to the gym twice a day. He does his 2-a-days. He's got a great cast around him. He's working at a high level. He's training good enough to beat weekend warriors. He can't beat a UFC fighter. He can't beat Mickey Gall. He can't beat the worst guy in the worst division of the UFC because they're professional fighters, but he could beat a weekend warrior. Mike Jackson, he's a weekend warrior. So can CM Punk win a fight? Yeah, I guess he could, depending on who he's fighting. And this is kind of the level that, yeah, maybe he can win.
This is the fight that they were supposed to make in the first place. Nobody was supposed to fight Mickey Gall. Like, that was just a bad idea.
Fair. But let me ask you this, if you think this is true or not, right? CM Punk, since the Mickey Gall fight,
yeah,
he's a better fighter now. We haven't seen him, but you would have to assume.
I have to assume that Duke Rufus and all those guys are making him at least better, more confident. He's going to have a better, probably, game plan. He's at a better camp. They know that they've been fighting this guy for a long time.
Yeah.
I imagine that it would take years upon years for him to be a better striker than Mike Jackson, but I think he's going to be improved. And like him going in against Mickey Gall, you can't really like that was comparing apples and oranges. Mickey Gall wins that fight 100 times out of 100 again. Like that's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
I'm with you. It's scary, but I got CM Punk winning. I got CM Punk winning this fight here, man.
The difference between 2 years of jiu-jitsu training,
especially at almost plus 200.
Yeah, the difference between 2 years of jiu-jitsu training as opposed to 4 years of jiu-jitsu training is astronomical. You might have gone from a white belt to a purple belt in that time. That's a big difference. I just honestly feel like what we saw, CM Punk now would beat CM Punk from then. He's made improvements. He should come back a better fighter. Mike Jackson from then, I honestly think it's the same Mike Jackson as now. Like, what would he have done to make himself any better? Has he trained at a higher level? No. He never got another UFC fight. He never got an LFA fight. He's a photographer for LFA when they go to Texas. The guy works a side job. And when he does try to compete, when he does go to the gym on weekends, he's not looking to grapple. He's looking to kickbox. He's a kickboxer. Yeah. He's a boxer. That's what he wants to do. So one guy is just been hopefully working on his grappling, but working with elite level kickboxers to get into situations where you can defend yourself and get the fight to the ground versus one guy that probably just does it recreationally to stay in shape. So yeah, I would have put in a camp for this fight, but CM Punk would have probably been putting a camp in for the last little bit. I mean, he's training.
Since the last fight. From rumors around, it's like he got right back into action. Right
so it's like, why would you put money on CM Punk? Well, this is why, if you were considering it, this is why you would put money on CM Punk.
Because he's a plus 200 underdog. You're not going to lay minus 230 on Mike Jackson.
The fact is that we don't know what's going to happen on Saturday night. We have no idea.
No idea.
This is as much of a 50-50 fight because he might win, he might not win. I don't know. It's a 50-50. So if they're going to give you that kind of plus money on him, you got to take it. And as far as DraftKings go, $7,600, like, you have to assume if he's gonna win, it's probably not gonna go the distance.
It could.
Right? It might be a terrible fight.
It could be so bad. It's gonna look ugly. But it's not gonna be a pretty fight. This is the type of fight that well, you've done a lot of stuff with you've done a lot of stuff with Ace and with Substance. Like the early prelims, like these are the type of guys that usually, if they don't have the name CM Punk, end up on Ace fights, or they end up on and it doesn't look like UFC fighting at all.
No, this to
it'll be ugly. It'll be ugly based on if you only ever watch UFC or Bellator or KSW or some of these bigger promotions. Like this is what these types of fights are going to look like, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just kind of strange when we have it at this level, right?
Yeah, you know what, man? I've watched a lot of fights. I've helped matchmake a lot of fights. I've checked a lot. This fight, if his name wasn't CM Punk, if it was just regular old Phil Brooks taking on regular old Mike Jackson, not Mike Jackson, the one UFC fight, this is an amateur fight. Yeah. This is what it is. It's two guys that are at the amateur level. And amateur fights tend to end a lot more frequently than professional fights because guys are working at the Kings. Guys are not, it's not everybody's a brown belt. It's not everybody's a black belt. It's not everybody wrestled at some type of collegiate level.
There's huge disparities,
right? You can get a guy in a compromising situation. He'll just tap to the rear naked. Let's not forget too that with Mike Jackson, his last fight against Mickey Gall, where he got submitted, but he also got floored with just a winging punch as he was backing. His head was straight in the air. His hands were down. He was trying to back out.
You know who scored more points than CM Punk?
Yeah,
Mike Jackson. He had 1.5 points. CM Punk actually. Usually when we have like debuting fighters, they have 0 fantasy points per fight. CM Punk got 0 in his first fight against Mickey Gall.
But when Mike Jackson got in a compromising situation and he had been dropped and now he's given up his neck, that was it. He tapped, that was it. CM Punk, yes, also got tapped. However, if you rewatch the fight, he's taken a shit kicking from the ground, right? Where he is literally getting styled on. He is getting smashed. I've got Mickey Gall by first round submission. And I'm basically ready to just walk away and be like, well, this is a first round TKO. But CM Punk don't quit. He takes the beating, he gives up his back, he gets submitted, I'm happy. But how many multimillionaires in the world would go get their ass kicked, fight through it, not quit, get embarrassed in front of all their fans who believed in them, and then think to themselves, I want to do this again. A competitive person that doesn't quit on themselves. And that's good enough for me to win an amateur fight.
And a guy that we've kind of, like, everyone was kind of like, oh, what's this guy all about? When he first came in, it's like, he doesn't really seem to, like, really want all of the spotlight. Not, like, this is just kind of a dream of his, and he's pushing for it. Yeah. And I think, like, he's kind of proven that, like, he's not in it for, like, he's not here for the money. Sure, the money's nice, but it's like he wants to actually become good and get better at this sport. Last thing I'm going to say about this.
I got a quick one, too.
Greasy
theory.
Last thing I'm going to say about it is only one of these guys, if they win, is getting another UFC fight.
No, CM Punk might not take it. I don't think he would even take it. I think this is a dream of his to get the win.
But what I'm saying is, like the Mike Jackson, if he wins this fight, the UFC is just like, you can go back to being a reporter. He's not getting a follow-up fight. If they send him in there with anybody else, he'll get killed.
I'll tell you why.
They will book him against another person.
I'll tell you why. Because if he beats CM Punk, then he's got a little bit of name cachet, and then you'll see this guy on some bullshit card fighting Paige Van Zandt's boyfriend, at 170.
And he'll get creamed in the first round.
So he can get thrashed, and then that guy can have that little bit of name cachet. Okay. Anyways, last thing for you.
Your greasy theory.
Greasy theory, Paul.
Is it Mike Jackson's going to take a dive?
Oh shit, that would be a great. Why didn't I think of that? Do you mind if I take that from you?
I'm willing. Like the plus 200 is a nice little bet that Mike Jackson takes a little dive.
Hey, the guy's in Chicago. That goes back to him not quitting. The greasy theory is, do you know what other WWE superstar lost his UFC debut and came back to win a motherfucking title? Brock Lesnar. Okay. Sometimes these guys know I'm gonna work my first match. No, I'm just kidding. He's not Brock Lesnar. He's not winning any
Well, they
world
both have
titles.
wrestling pedigrees. Different type of wrestling.
CM Punk also doesn't look like an athlete, but if you watch his pro wrestling, which I'm not a fan of his, but I'm sure there's highlights you can go watch, like he's kind of a high flyer. He's not as bad of an athlete as we think. And 38, I'm sure his body's breaking down, but let's see, man. Maybe this is his only chance to pick up a UFC victory, so he's got to take full advantage of it.
We go to the heavyweight division. We have Curtis Razor Blaydes taking on Alistair the Reem Overeem. 8,500 Blaydes, 77 for Overeem. Minus 185 Blaydes, plus 160 Overeem. Who you got?
Yeah, like if you're buying into the hype of Blaydes, and I kind of feel like I am, young, fast, mobile heavyweight. Like you don't get guys that are young and established at heavyweight anymore. It's mostly just like these old dogs, these gritty veterans that have worked a long time to get to that level. But Blaydes is like one of those breaths of fresh air in the division. You know, he's a young guy. He's got massive size on him. And whereas oftentimes we think about heavyweights like, oh, it's got to end quick or else both guys gas and it's a sloppy outcome. Blaydes seems to have cardio, trains at altitude in Colorado. Like I said, a very athletic guy. Sky's the limit for him. This is a massive test because if you're not quite sold on Blaydes, then this is what's going to determine. Alistair Overeem doesn't go down quietly. Like either you're going to get into a striking exchange with him. A lot of guys get hurt and have to rally back from that to beat him, to knock him out, so to speak. But the wrestling advantage for me, for Blaydes, is why he should probably get this victory here. Alistair Overeem is a big, strong guy. His wrestling is very raw. It's based just on strength. He will not double leg take you down. He will like football tackle you to the ground. But outside of that, he's not really a wrestler. He's a Dutch striker. He's a guy that's got a lot of submissions, most of them just coming from that guillotine because of how strong he is.
Yep.
He's not the same Alistair Overeem that he used to be,
No,
where it's like you
course
clench up with this guy, he needs you once in the gut and you topple over.
Those knees were killer.
His knees were unbelievably one of the best weapons. K1 had to ban his knees from the clinch because he was just toppling over the best strikers in the world. His liver kick is tremendous. The power that he possesses in his hands is tremendous. But if there's one way to beat him, look at, say, the Stipe Miocic fight. He hurt Stipe. Stipe realizes, why am I striking with a K1 level champion like Alistair Overeem? The takedown comes pretty easy. And once he is on the ground, you can just pound him. His chin is gone. Earlier I said earlier I said Andre Arlovski has one of the worst chins in the UFC, but that's because Alistair Overeem is still on the roster. These guys are both tit for tat, 9-10 knockout losses. They can't really take that shot. Yeah, they're fighting big heavyweights. Yeah, they're fighting very accomplished fighters, but all the same, it just takes one shot to put them out. The way he goes out against Stipe, it's almost scary. Like, one shot, you see he's frozen. The ref doesn't even get in soon enough. Stipe just pounds him out.
I believe I felt a tap.
Yeah. Now, he's such a good striker, and he realizes his chin's terrible, that now he's like Alistair Overeem version 2.0. Don't do shit. Let them come and get some, and when they come...
He knows his chin is...
he doesn't want to get into those wars anymore. He doesn't want to get into those firefights. He wants to time that one big shot, hit you, and hurt you. But if we've seen anything with Curtis Blaydes and taking big shots against Francis Ngannou, is that he can at least take the shots and come back.
But then he got wobbled hard against Mark Hunt in round 1.
He got wobbled, but going to the wrestling, it's
but
like,
then once he took over round 2 and 3, he was fine. But like round 1,
with just the wrestling,
he almost got knocked out. So like if there's one chink in his armor, it's that his striking defense isn't great. And we're at heavyweight. These things happen in MMA. Guys will get knocked out. So I don't think Alistair Overeem doesn't have a chance to win. Like he's got the knockout chance. He's got the puncher's chance here. But I agree, more times out of not, I believe Curtis Razor Blaydes to kind of just put up a pace that most heavyweight guys are not going to be able to deal with. Secure takedowns and rack up points. 8,500. If he wins this fight, like I find it hard to believe that he's not going to be able to take him down. I know he wasn't able to take down Omalanchuk, but Omalanchuk's like 5'10". It's really
super
hard
stocky
when you're like 6'5" to get your hips low enough to secure takedowns against that guy.
Plus, he's an AKA product. He trains with Daniel Cormier and Cain Velasquez on the daily. Yeah, Omalanchuk is one of those guys that's like, you know, surprisingly not all that bad.
Struve was able to take him down though, which is weird. But I think you go into that fight not expecting Struve to try and take you down.
Yeah, plus maybe the fact that he's 7 feet tall, he's able to peel a guy who's 5'10" down. Like I don't know the dynamics of it. All the same, Curtis Blaydes is not a guy that's looked absolutely fantastic throughout his run in the UFC. But again, when you're young, you're making improvements fight to fight. Alistair Overeem, the best version of Alistair Overeem has already occurred, right? If anything, he's just that trying to hang around the block, don't take as many shots as you used to because you know your chin's kind of fading. I can beat some of these guys, but I got to pick spots. Curtis Blaydes on his way up. Alistair Overeem, he's either declining, probably declining. If not, we're not seeing a better version of him. But my question for you is, if we were to name the 3 hardest punchers in the UFC's heavyweight division, which essentially would be the UFC. The 3 hardest punchers in the UFC would be number 1, probably Francis Ngannou. Number 2, probably Mark Hunt. And number 3 might be Alistair Overeem. Yeah. Blaydes took the punch from Mark Hunt. He got hurt, but he lived to tell the tale. The fight with Blaydes, he gets TKO because of his eye swell shut, but I mean, he gets dropped twice by Ngannou. How many people can say, yeah, I got floored by Ngannou and I got back up and I kept fighting on? Yep. So Alistair Overeem, yeah, he's a vaunted power puncher, and yeah, his path to victory here is to clip this guy, but we've seen this guy get clipped, and he just goes right to his wrestling, right? He tries to just transition, oh, I got hit, resort back to what I'm good at, that's my wrestling, and the wrestling would be his path to victory against him. Take down Alistair Overeem, pound this guy, hopefully knock him out. The $8,500, yeah, not bad, man. I'm actually digging that, and I think I'm going to try a play on it.
Fair enough. Let's move on. We've got, we go to the strawweight division. We have Claudia Gadelha taking on Carla Esparza. Gadelha is 9,400 and minus 550, respectively. Esparza 6,800 plus 425. New people to the program may not know that Cody has a long-term, what would you call it? Rivalry? Long-standing beef with Carla Esparza, but we won't get into any of the semantics of that. Hardcores would know the old stories behind all of this. I think this one is an interesting one. From DraftKings perspective, I kind of just see the two of them hanging out on the feet, and I see Gadelha being better basically everywhere and being stronger. In terms of technical wrestling, I guess Esparza probably has the better technical wrestling at the end of the day, but...
Yeah, maybe. She's stronger. I think that's what gets her better in the wrestling department is the strength.
I mean, Esparza probably has the technical wrestling.
Oh, sorry, Esparza.
But,
yeah.
Gadelha has the strength and ability. Like, I think this fight gets dictated wherever Carla Esparza wants it. The problem is, 9,400, the price is just so big, and I see this probably more likely being like a stand-up fight, where Gadelha kind of just pieces her up and there's not too many takedowns. Why take Esparza to the one place that you think that she could be even remotely competitive, if that makes any sense? So I think this is a full fade for me on DraftKings, minus 550. Like, I really don't think Gadelha loses this really at all. I've really struggled to see how Esparza wins this fight. It's a terrible matchup for Carla Esparza. But minus 550 is almost kind of heavy too. What's your take? 550
is a heavy price, especially going back to that Holly Holm fight. It's like nobody really trusts Holly Holm. You don't want to pay a big price on it. Claudia Gadelha, yeah, same thing. Used to be at the top of the game. She's a former world champion. But there's something about her, just not the same fighter. And you and I talk a lot about this, whether it's a real trend or not, but the Nova União fighter is being shot to bits. She
doesn't train there anymore.
No, I know. But they trained hard at Nova União. They went hard rounds. They had hard weight cuts. Who knows if Andre Pedneris has actually given them anything, but they're not on it anymore, and they don't see the same. They don't have the same results. A lot of them left Nova União and have gone to, probably, hopefully, greener pastures, but the results are still not there. Renan Barão is at American Top Team. The results just ain't there. Junior Dos Santos, same thing, at American Top Team. The results just aren't there. Claudia Gadelha, now spending time at Jackson Winklejohn, but so far, she hasn't looked very good. She has not looked good in either of her 2 fights since switching camps. She's a massive, massive strawweight. So she's got to get these weight cuts in check. And I don't disagree that maybe that's taken something out of her. Maybe she's not the same fighter that she used to be because she wants to move up to 125, but she's too small at 125, so she just has to make these drastic weight cuts that are slowing her mobility down, sapping her energy levels, not giving her that amount of strength. But if she comes in with a good weight cut and does even half of what she's capable of doing, I think she actually maybe does stop Carla Esparza. The reason I say that is...
She did it to Carolina when we weren't really expecting it, right?
Of course. And in Carla Esparza's case, and we saw that in the Joanna and Jacek fight, is that she'll shoot as many takedowns as humanly possible because she does not want to strike. Even in her subsequent fight since Joanna, a lot of it is just wrestling heavy affairs. She wants to... Her striking's like... if she's fighting Ronda Marcos, and you can telegraph a lot of those punches coming in, but elite level strikers are going to hit her. They're going to hit her hard, and she does not like it. She cowers away from the punches. She doesn't wear shots particularly well. She wears a lot of damage on her face. Once she starts to get hit, her eyes tend to swell up, and that just makes her more desperate for the takedowns. And against a lot of these girls, against the Juliana Limas of the world, she's going to get those takedowns, and she's not going to have to strike. But I don't see that happening as Claudia Gadelha. Gadelha's takedown defense checks out.
I don't know if it's the best.
It's not the best, but against
the problem is that it didn't. She got exploited in that realm
against Jessica Andrade.
Exactly, and we had another. Exactly, it was a strength issue. She wasn't the stronger opponent in that fight. This fight, she is a stronger opponent. I don't expect Carla Esparza to be able to do anything in the grappling realm.
Well, she's not the stronger
unless
opponent.
she somehow just finds like the back in a random scramble or something and gets a rear naked choke. That's the only way. I would be very surprised to see that I could ever see Esparza winning this fight. She's not going to win on the feet. She's probably going to be on her back if it does go to the ground, she'll be on her back being controlled down there. I think most times out of not, this hangs out on the feet because Gadelha wants it to be on the feet, and then she sparks her there.
Yeah, no, I agree. It would take too much energy for Claudia Gadelha to go out with the game plan of continuously take down Carla Esparza, because Carla Esparza likes to scramble. She's not bad in the scramble either. So if you shoot a single leg on her and all of a sudden a scramble situation ends up with Carla Esparza on top, well, now you got to use more energy to get back up. So I agree with you. I think the fight probably stays standing. Esparza is going to try to get the fight to the ground. Claudia Gadelha should be able to stop those takedowns. And when we look back at the Jessica Andrade fight, there's one situation where it's like, bull meets another bull, right? You can't really do that same tactic of bullying around this opponent against someone like Jessica Andrade. But she looks good in the first round. Thing is, the second and third round, it's like, this girl's not going away, has an endless amount of cardio, and is just piecing me together with multiple punch combinations. Now I'm tired and I'm hurt and my will is just wilting away. Whereas if she has that same first round that she did against Jessica Andrade, she has that same first round against Carla Esparza, well then Esparza is wilting away. She's not coming hard in rounds 2 and 3. She's trying to second guess herself a little bit. So 9,400, you need to finish by Claudia Gadelha. And I don't love it, and I'm not going to put this on a whole pile of lineups, but if a lot of people are thinking, geez, I'd rather just save $100 and get Tai Tuivasa and get that first round knockout, well then Claudia's going to be a lot less played. I don't know how many people are willing to pay the 9,400 for her, but if she can get a first round knockout or a TKO or even, ends up on the ground, she's a former Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion, she's got a nasty head and arm choke, who knows, maybe she gets a submission against Esparza, maybe she can get the knockout against Esparza, and because it'd be low played, a lot of more
casual players do just look at odds though, and the thing about it is she is far and away the biggest favorite on the card. So a lot of the more casual people who aren't in the know about matchups and stylistical, I think she'd probably end up being more owned than we're really giving it credit, or what she really should be.
She's super expensive, so that's one of the reasons I don't think people will try to afford her on the lineup. Even as a casual, you click on her, now you can't afford anything else. And the other thing is that it's a strawweight fight, It's a women's strawweight fight, obviously just 115. But that's not super appealing. That's not, oh my God, I'm getting Amanda Nunes, who I've heard of. That's not, oh, I've heard of Cyborg Justino, these girls wreck girls. This is a strawweight fight, and I don't know how many people look at strawweight fights and say there's a great case for an early stoppage or a quick stoppage in this one. I don't know, but Claudia should be the safest pick on the card. She's the biggest favorite for a reason, and I think she stuffs the takedowns and boxes her way to a victory.
Off we go to the featherweight division. We have Mirsad Bektic taking on Ricardo Lamas. Mirsad Bektic is 8,800 and minus 230. Ricardo Lamas 7,400 plus 190. Who you like?
Bektic was like the ultimate prospect, man. Dude, he just looks so good. Trains at ATT. Everybody at ATT talks about how awesome this guy is. You watch him in fights and he's, fighting for the most part lower level competition, but he is just steamrolling guys. He's built like a Greek Adonis. His wrestling seems to just be not the most technical wrestler, but another guy that's very strong, very aggressive. If he wants the takedown, he'll get the takedown. No flaws in his victory. Then you just notice that he really doesn't fight all that often. He maybe takes one fight a year. He's always sidelined due to injuries. He's not really taking up step-ups in fight. So where's Mirsad Bektic at? I don't know. And then it comes down to, obviously, the Darren Elkins fight. You haven't really fought in a while. Elkins has got kind of a name.
And he won.
He's an established guy.
10-8s in those first 2 rounds.
He absolutely wrecks him in the first 2 rounds. Everyone's sitting at home saying, well, I told you how good Bektic was. And then he just runs out his steam and gets blasted by one Darren Danger Elkins. Yeah,
probably better. He's probably went back to the gym. It made him a better fight.
But he went back to the gym again, not in any hurry to jump back from his first professional loss. Takes a little bit of time off. Comes back against Godofredo Pepe. Looks good against Pepe. But again, now you're just back to fighting the regional cans of the division.
And Pepe's a quitter.
Yeah, and again, the UFC had him fighting nobodies to fighting Elkins, who we all know how dangerous Elkins is. The guy is
He's like the Homer Simpson of the boxing. Homer Simpson would just... He'll take all... His name is the damage for a reason. He'll take all the damage until you get tired because he still has gas.
But he's literally the ultimate gatekeeper. It's like, if you can beat this guy and look good against him, then you are something. And if not, he's going to find a way to beat you because he exposes people.
Scrappy.
Bektic, it was almost 2 fights. The one fight, you are sailing over a Peruvian commodity in Darren Elkins. The other part of it is, you're a busted prospect. You got caught. Maybe he just got caught the one time. Maybe that's all it is. Maybe he's a better man for losing that undefeated record. Like you said, go back to the gym, improve, see where you made mistakes. I love fighters that have at least a couple losses in their career because you learn a lot more valuable lessons out of losing that fight than you do. But again, fighting nobodies, takes a step up against Elkins. There's where he loses, goes back to fighting a nobody in Pepe, and now jumping up against Lamas. Like, there's no middle ground for him. There's no dipping your feet in the water. It's like, it's all or nothing. And with Lamas, he's coming off a terrible performance against Emmett where he got completely starched, but he's still a top 5, top 10 guy. He's still a guy that's been around. He's still a guy that's challenged for a title. He's still a guy that actually is a good wrestler. So if Bektic goes in there with the game plan that he usually does is take these guys down and completely clown them, maybe that's not an available option against Ricardo Lamas. And if it stays standing, here you got a guy in Lamas that's got big power. He's got that capoeira base kind of. He'll throw flashy stuff. He's beaten good guys standing before. He's probably, on paper, a better striker than Bektic is. If he just uses his wrestling enough to keep the fight standing, he's fine. And if it does go to the ground with Bektic on top, Lamas is a black belt. He should be able to be good enough on the ground to just keep himself out of danger, take this fight into those 2nd and 3rd rounds, and hopefully do what Elkins did, and that's catch him with something.
Yeah.
But I was so sold on Bektic that I can't let the one flash knockout change that. I can't let him getting gassed out after 2 hours.
It's a big step up, though.
It's a big step up.
This is a top 5, perennial top 5 opponent who has fought all of the best guys in the world. He's fought Holloway. He's fought Aldo. He's fought, you name a featherweight besides Conor McGregor at featherweight. They just never crossed paths.
Yeah.
This guy's fought everybody.
He's fought everybody.
I think Mirsad Bektic is still a guy to watch out for in this division. I expect to see more from him here. This is going to be a hell of a test, though. If he loses this fight, I'm not going to be shocked.
No, it's a top contender.
But my pick is Mirsad Bektic as well.
Yeah, the 8,800 though, not feeling that because I feel like the game plan will be largely based on taking him down, holding him down, grinding him, and I just don't know that he'll get the 8,800 worth of value back. So I'm avoiding him there, but I'm gonna give him the edge and think he gets the decision victory.
This next fight in the heavyweight division, let me tell you something, Cody Saftic. This is the type of fight that I have been waiting for. I have a lot of questions about things, and usually it come down to who is the worst fighter in insert UFC division.
I knew we were going to go there on this.
This fight, there's one guy that is out on the outside looking in. Maybe the loser can fight him. There's like that. There was a Chinese guy that Cyril Asker knocked out in the first.
I don't even think he has a contract.
I don't even know if he has a contract.
They were in China. He was there. He did the fight. That's it. I don't think he goes any further.
Rashad Coulter and Chris De La Roca, both 0-2 in their UFC careers. Both guys got blasted in all of their fights.
But which one is the worst?
These guys are fighting for the right for who is the worst fighter in the UFC heavyweight division. I have no idea. But I'm really excited to finally get, we had the Ruan Potts. We had all of these other guys over the years. Bojan Mihaljevic. He had no business being at heavyweight, but he was clear-cut the worst guy in the heavyweight division. We've went away from
Nandor Galmino.
All of those guys have all been cut now.
It's
up to Rashad Coulter and Chris De La Roca to solidify who is the worst guy in the heavyweight division. Loser of this probably gets cut, and then we have more questions to be asked. I have no idea how this fight goes.
Yeah. The interesting part about this one, too, is that as a matchmaking point of view for the UFC, it's like, okay, we got Rashad Coulter, the worst heavyweight in the division. Let's pair him up against Alan Crowder, the second worst guy in the division.
Oh, and they were like, Crowder's in the mix.
Yo, man, Alan Crowder's hurt. He's out of the fight. Okay, bring in the third worst guy in the division, Chris De La Roca. No, literally, it's absolute bottom feeders. And I've never been tricked into putting anything on Chris De La Roca, but I bet Coulter over Tuivasa. They're both just like middle-aged men who kind of seemingly got into it a little bit later. Rashad Coulter comes from, he boxes under the name Orlando Coulter, but he's got a couple pro boxing matches. You watch him, guy doesn't do anything exceptionally well. I mean, yeah, you can clearly tell that he's a boxer by trade, Texas guy. Just okay. His first couple fights in the UFC, he's not really demonstrating much. I think when you're getting blasted by Chase Sherman and then Tuivasa. He never really got to show off much, but maybe there just wasn't much to him. Here's a guy that jumped in the UFC, shouldn't have been in the first place, had beaten absolutely nobody prior to coming to the UFC. These guys generally go 0-2 and they fade out. It's a miracle they're still getting a fight in here. Chris De La Rocha, meanwhile, same thing. The guy's around that 40 age mark. He hasn't done anything impressive. The only one thing that you could possibly, if you look at all their body of work, Rashad Coulter did nothing impressive in any of his fights. There's nothing that you can really take away there.
The only thing that he did is that he was tough against
Chase
Sherman.
I thought that was the only thing Chris De La Rocha showed is in his fight with Adam Milstead. He took some bombs.
Well,
at least he was
the fight against Chase Sherman. But everyone was like, that guy's so tough. I can't believe he's standing.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, that's why I thought he might have a shot against Tuivasa.
You got the shit kicked out of you by Chase Sherman,
Take the early shots.
Like, it's not really being super tough and too tough for your own good against Chase Sherman. It's like, that's not really impressive. That means you're just a punching bag.
Yeah. I'm going to very reluctantly just say, dude, if you're going to give me two terrible heavyweights, I'm going to take the underdog. Chris De La Rocha is actually decent on the ground. It's just he never gets time to show that. He's not taking down Adam Milstead. Let's throw that out the window. He's not taking down Daniel Malonchuk. Let's throw that out the window. So really, he doesn't want to stand in front of you and throw bombs. He wants to get the takedown and he wants to try to use his, I believe he's a brown belt now. He wants to try to submit you. When he's taking on guys that can now wrestle him, he's got no shot. But at least with Milstead, he walked forward. He was showing off improvements in his hand. He's just not the better boxer. So he's getting beat up by Milstead and eventually he crumples to the ground. Against Coulter, again, he's not going to be the better boxer, but I don't think Coulter's going to be able to just maneuver around him and pick him off at range the entire time. So hopefully Chris De La Rocha can close that distance and get a takedown. And when you got two terrible, middle-aged, lumbering heavyweights on the ground,
take
one of
the
them's
underdog at 155, take the 7,500 on the DraftKings. Like,
if nobody loves this. Let's throw this out. Nobody loves this. It's just, it's plausible path to victory, good value, worth a shot.
Like, Rashad Coulter may be like under 10% owned.
Yeah, well, it'd be crazy.
And I wouldn't blame any. Like, but I don't want any of them at 8,700. How the hell? You were just talking about how you didn't want to pay for Mirsad Bektic at 8,800. Would you really want to touch Rashad Coulter at 87? No, thank you.
Yeah. At least Chris De La Rocha beat DJ Linderman, who's got a little bit of claim to fame, fought for Pro Elite, fought for World Series of Fighting, recently just fought that bare knuckle boxing show in Wyoming. Like, at least you have somewhat of a notable victory on your resume. Good enough for me. Give me the dog money on Chris De La Rocha.
All right, let's move to the light heavyweight division, not middleweight. Rashad Evans has moved up, back up to light heavyweight. He's fighting again. And let me tell you one thing. This line smells, Cody. This line smells so bad. They are begging.
Seems like a trap, doesn't it?
Begging you so badly, and we've seen it with these older guys. So one thing, we got 9,200 on Anthony Smith, minus 330 on the betting line, taking on former light heavyweight champion Rashad, and he's very former light heavyweight champion Rashad Evans, who is 7,000 and plus 270. They are begging you, please put some money on Rashad Evans. We've been talking about it. We've seen it a whole bunch. Renan Barão, when he took on Brian Kelleher, it's just like, well, that looks like a lot of value on Renan Barão. No, they plant these lines as the trap. This is just screaming trap. I think Anthony Lionheart Smith, he's a guy. We have two guys that at one point, Rashad Evans was up here and Anthony Smith was up here. And Anthony Smith, even though they've got similar amounts of fights, they've kind of passed, and I think Anthony Smith has passed him. He's at least tough, durable, wants to do that. He is on the rise. He got finished by Thiago Santos, but this guy's super, super tough. I think he finishes Rashad, and frankly, it's like Rashad's just digging, trying to find that last win so he can go out and have that last little glory moment, that one last time. I just wish you would just hang him up at this point. Like, it's not happening, bro.
Oftentimes, Paul, you and I talk about the mighty. Sometimes, Paul, we talk about how they've fallen.
Yeah.
And this is Rashad Evans.
Like, this line is
buried.
The books are like, we've given up on Rashad Evans, laying this number here, man.
Yeah, but again, it's a trap line in the sense that they give you so much value on Rashad Evans that it's like you're tempted to take a play, but they give you such terrible value on Anthony Smith that you don't really want to take that play.
They're keeping you off of it. I don't hate anybody taking a small little play on Rashad. Like, the number is super wide, but I think that number is just indicating to us, like, how far gone Rashad Evans is.
Yeah, but the thing is that we already knew that. We knew that he was so far gone when he was losing to Dan Kelly and Sam Alvey. The guy is not what he used to be. He thought to himself, maybe I can go to 185 and reinvent myself, but couldn't make 185. Got pulled off that card in New York because he's some type of medical issue. Has to take a catch weight at 195 pounds. And again, just the guy does not look good at 185. He's got to be at 205. Then you see him at 205. There's just nothing there, man. There's nothing in the tank anymore. Even at his best, to be truthful, and I don't want to sound like a hater, the guy is a legend. The guy is a former world champion. But like, even at his best, I don't think he was ever really all that good. He came off the Ultimate Fighter, was at heavyweight. He takes a
knocked out Chuck to win the belt.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's all just been like storybook for him. Things just lined up. He beat Brad Imes, who had literally not trained in fighting.
Right place, everything kind of worked out.
That's a greasy split. His early run in the UFC is not pretty. He's getting some splits. He comes in to presumably lose to Chuck Liddell. He ends up clipping him. His fight with Forrest Griffin for the title, he lost the first round to Forrest Griffin, but he comes back and he gets the TKO
the
over him.
One impressive one would have been the Chael Sonnen.
Chael, and you want to talk about works, and you want to talk about a guy that occasionally doesn't show up to the dance. It's Chael Sonnen. They're both on the Fox panel together. They're buddies. And that's the last time, and I think that fight's 2014? Yeah. So in the last 4 years, it's just been injury after injury. It's just been declining skill set. The speed's not there anymore. All these things aren't there anymore. He's not the same guy. If you lost to Sam Alvey and Dan Kelly, then I honestly do think that Anthony Smith is kind of right around that same level, even though he's moving up from 185. The guy's massive. Like, he's got a massive size. He's got a massive frame for the division. He's very long. He's got good cardio. He's got a killer instinct. I mean, the guy does not go to decision very often. He generally takes guys out. And if you're Rashad, you don't get taken out a whole lot. Yeah, Glover took you out. Leo Machida took you out a very long time ago. But for the most part, it's like he just doesn't really do anything and loses these decisions. The one reason why I am avoiding Anthony Smith, even though, yeah, he's fighting a shot version of Rashad Evans and he should be able to get the victory, is that if there's a way for Rashad Evans to win, it's just, dude, get back to your wrestling. You need to take this guy down because he's very rangy. His takedown defense is not great. His ground game is pretty good. He'll throw up submissions, but you've been around so long and you haven't been submitted. Surely you got to be good enough to just fend some submission attempts off of him, take him down, score. The rounds it's going to be boring. If Rashad wins, it's going to be boring. If Anthony Smith's going to win, might be exciting. He might be able to put hands on him. He might be able to hurt him. But if Rashad wins, it's going to be that slow game. And here's the thing with Anthony Smith. When you look back to the Cesar Mutanche fight, he's the favorite. Mutanche's shot. He can't take a punch. But he's a good enough wrestler to get the fight to the ground. And when he gets the fight to the ground, he neutralizes him. On paper, certainly, Rashad Evans is a better wrestler than Cesar Mutanche. But let's throw that one out the window. You got Anthony Smith taking on Andrew Sanchez. He loses the first 2 rounds, getting taken down. And then he's able to catch him in the third. Him versus Hector Lombard. He loses the first 2 rounds, but he catches Hector Lombard in the third. If he goes out there
He's resilient.
He's resilient, but if he loses the first 2 rounds based on
he's not able to
takedowns
finish
and
you
doesn't
in round
finish
three.
him,
He's
a big-ass price tag.
I agree.
If you put all the big favorites on this card together, this one smells like shit in the apple pie. All I'm saying. So,
I agree to an extent, but like...
But Rashad Evans is Rashad Evans.
9,200, he's a GPP player. You don't want to play that guy in cash.
Yeah, but if you're just winning and you're just hitting Evans and not much is happening and Evans just kind of moves around on the outside a lot, like he backtracks a lot, his footwork's still good enough that he can just keep himself out of danger. After getting knocked out by Glover, he's not looking to exchange with a heavy power puncher. Smith is not, and Smith's moving up 20 fucking pounds, man. So if he was...
So is Rashad.
Rashad is a 205er. He couldn't make 85. He never even made 85 once.
Anthony Smith's taller. He's a big boy, man. Like he won't be able to. He's gonna look like the bigger guy.
He's a big boy, but when he's thrashing guys like Josh Neer, a natural 55er on the regional scene, when he's coming to the UFC and he's beating guys like Hector Lombard, should be a welterweight. When he's beating some of these guys that really aren't that big, you're going to have a big power advantage.
Rashad just lost to Dan Kelly.
But he didn't get knocked out. He fought Sam Alvey, who was a big power puncher, doesn't throw shit, but a big power puncher. He didn't get knocked out. Glover knocked him out, but that's Glover. That's not Anthony Smith. Glover's a natural 205er. Yep. So if you're going to pay that kind of price tag on Anthony Smith, you want to finish, and maybe it doesn't present itself. So for me, it's a stay away.
Joseph Benavidez, 9,000 on DraftKings, minus 250 on the betting line. Sergio Pettis, 7,200 plus 210. Benavidez coming off of like a torn ACL, big, massive injury. Sounds like his rehab and everything, getting back into the swing of things was like really, really tough process.
Bet it was, man. Bet it was.
If it was heavyweight, and he's like, what? He's like 33, somewhere around that in terms of age. I wouldn't be as concerned if he was a heavyweight. when you're at flyweight, that mobility, the spring in your step, all of these things, I would really like Benavidez if he wasn't coming off of this knee injury. In this spot, DraftKings, I think he would probably go to his wrestling in this spot. I think he knows that he would be able to win grappling exchanges against a guy like Sergio Pettis, and he may still actually do that. My concern is that you're like 33, 34 years old. You're a flyweight. These guys move a mile a minute.
Yeah, fair.
And if you lose a step or you lose a little bit of speed in this division, you don't have that power as an equalizer coming back in the same way. Yeah, they all have a little bit of power, but having that speed advantage is so crucial at 125 pounds that this one almost just seems like stay away. I expect Benavidez to maybe edge out a decision, but if it stays on the feet, it's going to be real close, real greasy, and I wouldn't be shocked either. I wouldn't be shocked if he loses this one. Not that he's not that Benavidez isn't the better fighter, but that injury coming back at that weight class is it's real problematic in my opinion. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the time we look at guys that are coming off of layoffs due to massive injuries, and the knee injury is always one that you're worried about. Like long-term concussion problems and knee injuries, you always wonder like, how's a guy going to come back? But oftentimes in this day and age, with the medical advancements that we have in 2018, you can come back from a knee injury. You can come back better than ever. Dominic Cruz, how many people were worried about Dominic Cruz in his long layoff, and the guy gets
he has the exact type of style.
Yeah.
Where you need that mobility.
He has a dead man's knee, and then his body rejects it, and then he's got to do a whole other ACL injury, another surgery, and more time on a layoff. And yeah, his style's predicated to his movement, but he comes back, and his movement's there. You know, he's famously quoted as saying, "I don't believe in ring rust." And this is not nearly as long as a layoff as a guy like Dominic Cruz had. Speaking of Dominic Cruz, I mean, him and Demetrius Johnson are the only guys to beat Joseph Benavidez. Like, I mentioned it the odd time or two, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. That's Joseph Benavidez, man. Like, you have been knocking on the door as the number 2 guy in the world for so many years. But that's kind of where you're stuck. If DJ wasn't around, you'd have been champion by now. I didn't think he beat Henry Cejudo in his last fight, but he got the decision. Those are the number 1 and 2 guys in the division, outside of Demetrius Johnson.
Yep.
You look at how Henry Cejudo did against Sergio Pettis. He exposes him, right? He's able to take him down. And that's where I'm going to lean towards Joseph Benavidez to come back as a good enough version of himself. If he was taking on Dustin Ortiz, or he was taking on Pantoja, or he was taking on a guy that is quick, good on the ground, can scramble, decent striker, then I'm kind of worried about, is he going to be able to get these takedowns against a guy that's a good wrestler? But with Sergio Pettis, it's the same thing with his brother Anthony. Every time he goes into a fight, we always wonder, well, maybe his wrestling's gotten better. He just doesn't show it. People were legitimately talking about what's Henry Cejudo going to do when Sergio Pettis stuffs some of those takedowns. But he couldn't stuff those takedowns, Paul. He wasn't even competitive at stuffing those takedowns. Bigger, stronger, lifelong wrestlers are able to take him down. So Joseph Benavidez should be able to get those takedowns. If he gets those takedowns, that's the path to victory. Take this guy down, rout him, beat him. 33 is old for flyweight, but still, it's not so bad. I'm going to think that his body's able to recover and come back. And lastly, Joseph Benavidez has done the majority of this camp. He's spent a lot of time in Las Vegas at the Performance Institute, working on things like on the knee, working on, training smarter and, making better weight cut, better choices, being a better version of yourself. He seems to enjoy it a lot. He's a decent fit for there. I think that he's able to show, we often forget with Sergio Pettis how young the guy is. I mean, he's been thrown to the wolves pretty early into his career, but he fights a whole lot of bums. By the way, he's got 7 wins in the UFC. All 7 of his wins are by way of decision. So that kind of throws off the element of maybe he hits Joseph Benavidez early and hurts him. He's going to have to just outpoint this guy over the course of 3. And Benavidez is a crafty veteran that's got hopefully enough spring in his step to keep on him, wear him out, get some takedowns, and just outwork him for the decision. So, as far as DraftKings goes, again, don't love the price, but I think Joseph Benavidez should be able to get the victory. And this is another, as I said at the top of the show, a lot of these fights are greasy. A lot of these fights are close. Even though I can pick Joseph Benavidez, hey, dude, maybe the ACL will give him trouble. Maybe the layoff will give him trouble. Maybe the young rising star is eventually going to knock off the old warrior. It remains to be seen, but, I'm going to lean towards Jobi-Wan Kenobi to get the victory.
Charles Dobronx Oliveira is 8,400 on DraftKings and a -160 favorite, taking on Clay the Carpenter Guida, who's 7,800 and +140. Who you got?
It's funny because honestly, with Clay Guida, he's on a roll right now, and I think he can beat a lot of the guys. And you get Charles Oliveira on relatively short notice, like you should be able to style on this guy. But if there's one way that we know how to beat Clay Guida, it's to catch him with a submission. And with Charles Oliveira,
that's all
literally the only thing he has in the bag is that he could potentially catch you in a submission.
If he gets you down there early, it gets ugly.
His last 7 fights have finished by way of finish. Either he's catching you in a choke, or
he quits on himself as he can't employ his game plan, get you to the ground, can't do any of that stuff. He's the type of guy, like against Felder, like that was a classic example. He had him on, he was on top, he had him in all the positions. When you roster him on DraftKings, I was just like, let's go, baby. Charles Do Bronx got him, and Felder was able to survive. It's just in round 2, it's just like, all right, he got him down again, and it's just like, oh, he's not able to get the submission.
Oh, he's quitting.
And all of a sudden,
classic.
Get me out of here. I think he tapped the strikes, didn't he?
Did tap the strikes. Yeah, but even the Anthony Pettis fight, I mean, it's 1-1 going into the third. He's actually not doing all that bad. And then it's just like, oh, bullshit, takedown attempt goes into a guillotine choke. You tap out to Anthony Pettis.
Every fight is the same.
Ricardo Lamas buzzsaws this guy, submits him. Miles Jury fight. He comes out of nowhere and he submits Miles Jury. It's like, god damn. The guy is hit and miss.
He's
but
he's always a GPP flyer.
100% this guy's a flyer. Because that's exactly it. You at least know, even the Felder fight, he loses and you feel shitty about it. But it's like, well, at least it wasn't due to lack of effort. No. He attempted to get the fight to the ground.
He got into the spots that I wanted him to get, and he wasn't able to finish
He loves the darts. He loves the Bravo. He loves to lock up the neck. He put Felder in some tough situations, and Felder held on. It's not that Clay Guida is not a quitter by no stretch of the imagination. It's just like maybe some of those exact same chokes go on Clay Guida and he taps. That Thiago Tavares fight from just a few years ago with Clay Guida is a prime example of that. You shoot your way right into a takedown. The guy just submits you with a guillotine choke. It can happen. But if you're going to give me Clay Guida for plus money, again, and I know I used this analogy already, but Charles Oliveira, he's a coin flip, man. If he shows up, he's going to beat you. If he doesn't show up, you're going to beat him. And he shows up as much as he does not show up.
And they're giving you plus 140 on a coin flip.
So Clay Guida's like put in a full camp. He's hungry. He's on a winning streak. He's coming off some good performances where you're able to
sign a new contract.
Yeah, and people always said, well, he doesn't have enough power in his hands to really hurt these guys. At least he just knocked out Joe Lozon. If he puts some of that same pressure and some of that same power in Charles Oliveira, the guy will wilt. His fight with Eric Koch, also a shot version of a fighter, but, dominates Eric Koch pillar to post, goes out there and follows that up with the Joe Lozon fight. The Brian Ortega fight, very competitive until he gets caught in the third round. The guy's not that bad. He's that guy that's been around the block a whole lot of times. The thing is, we've seen 50 Clay Guida fights, and we know submission defense is an issue for him. So Oliveira's got a shot here. If you're looking for a flyer, he might be that flyer. But I'm going to take the dog money on Clay Guida and think he gets the victory.
And finally, we've got Dan Ige taking on Mike Santiago. Dan Ige, 8,300 and a minus 135 favorite. Taking on Mike Santiago, 7,900 and plus 115. Got any hot takes here?
Yeah, I mean, you could honestly go the other way. I thought that Mike Santiago would be able to get the win the last time against Mads Burnell. Mads Burnell, a young kid, jiu-jitsu black belt. But what we've learned now from Mads Burnell, even though we just lost to Arnold Allen, is that, like, man, his takedown's really not that bad. He can get you to the ground. When he gets you to the ground.
Decent wrestler, good grappler.
Yeah, he's 22 years old. He's already a BJJ black belt. Like, he's a good grappler. How's he going to get the fight to the ground? Well, his takedowns aren't that bad. Santiago is a guy that wrestled in high school out of Illinois. He's from Chicago, team Top Notch. He has spent some time with Ricardo Lamas training in the past, although Ricardo Lamas, he's got his own UFC gym anymore. He's still at team Top Notch. But like I said, a guy that was a gritty, tough, hard-nosed wrestler in high school, transitions to MMA, has got a wealth of experience. A lot of his early fights, he's getting caught in submissions all the time, caught in submissions. Now he went on a good little winning streak. One's against Mark Cherico on Dana White's Contender Series, gets into the UFC, and then he draws Zabit in his first fight. Like, talk about giving a guy no favors, lose to Zabit. We all knew that was going to happen. I thought he'd do better against Burnell, but he was largely neutralized through the grappling. Ige is a grappler. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. He's also a Judo brown belt. He's a guy that also allegedly wrestled in high school for a little bit, but he's from Hawaii. I would say that Illinois has got a better wrestling program, so I feel like Santiago's got the edge in the wrestling department. Ige might be able to trip him to the ground with that judo. He might be able to score a takedown. If he scores a takedown, I do think he's the better guy on the ground. But his last fight against Julio Arce, he struggled with closing that distance and taking the fight to the ground.
Arce's good, though.
Absolutely. But the more mobile, quicker guy that was a better striker was able to just play that distance game and just pick him apart. I feel like this is a fight that could go either way. I don't have a hot take on this fight because both guys could definitely come in with the right game plan, get the victory here. But I'm going to lean with Santiago to do exactly that, and that's you're the rangier guy in this guy. Hit him, keep him at distance, bop him up, stuff those takedowns, make him pay, and get a decision. Plus, you're from Chicago. This fight's in Chicago. If it's even just a remotely close fight and the crowd's on your side and you get some of that pop, And it's early fight on the prelims, so maybe the venue's not full up, and maybe you don't get that same noise, and maybe there is no close hometown decision, or maybe it's like the John Vellante fight in New York with Sam Alvey, where not much happens, but they don't give you the hometown decision. They just kind of say, hey, it was pretty close, it was shitty, we kind of thought Alvey won. Like, I don't know, but one guy's 0-2 in the UFC, one guy's 0-1 in the UFC. It's going to be hard to gauge. I'm just going to lean towards Mike Santiago to hopefully pick up his first UFC victory.
All right, question time here. We've had some people send us a couple questions. I picked out a couple questions. First one comes from Ryan Ayay. A-Y-A-Y. He goes, why isn't, and I think this guy generally hates Demetrious Johnson.
I don't know.
We appreciate him asking the question. He goes, why isn't number one pound for pound GOAT DJ, and then he has like that sarcastic looking up in the air face, more scrutinized for refusing to fight TJ so he can continue to style on bums? I don't know if he's been styling on bums. One thing I will say about this, DJ gets a lot of flack in general. It's just like, it isn't his fault that he's so much better than everybody in the division.
That is true.
Henry Cejudo is a Olympic champion. This guy is super well-rounded. He dusted him in the first round. Nobody forced Anderson Silva did go up to 205 to take on like Forrest Griffin and guys like that. Nobody forced him to do that. Nobody forced GSP to leave his division where he was dominating for years. Nobody's forced John Jones to leave his division and go fight at heavyweight.
But TJ's offering to come to 25. TJ's offering to come to 25.
TJ's never made 25.
But he's offering to do it.
I would, if I was DJ.
It's the biggest fight you could take.
If I was DJ, I've got this winning streak. I've got all of these things. I want to at least see TJ do a test cut. I want to see 125 on that scale. I want it to be regulated by USADA or UFC, or have some sort of third party to make sure that this guy's actually stepping on a scale, actually getting the championship weight. Because the amount of stuff that goes into it, he goes into that fight, and sure, it's a title fight for DJ, and if he loses he loses everything. He loses that belt. He loses everything. If TJ comes in at 130, then he's going to be pressured into it against Dillashaw. And is it really a money fight? No. I don't think it's really a money fight.
But it's the biggest fight that they could do. At least you got your 125-pound champ and your 135-pound champ. It's a champ versus champ matchup. It's the greatest of all time, Demetrious Johnson, the GOAT, so to speak, taking on a guy that's the best bantamweight in the world, a guy that's, I don't believe in top 15 pound-for-pound lists, but he's probably one of the top pound-for-pound guys, especially if he can go down to 125. Is the biggest fight Demetrious Johnson could potentially get himself into. But the two things with that question in particular is that, number one, he's not fighting cans. It's that it goes back to that Cyborg situation. There's just, everybody looks like a can in comparison to you.
Yeah.
Who are the best flyweights in the world if Demetrious Johnson was not competing?
Benavidez.
Henry
Cejudo and Benavidez.
Joseph Benavidez.
They had a competitive fight.
Joseph Benavidez. Demetrious Johnson knocked him out. Okay.
Yep.
Henry Cejudo. Yep. Joseph Benavidez knocked him out.
I'm saying the same thing as you.
Ray Borg. Well,
dominated him and then had like the most ridiculous submission win.
DJ knocks out Benavidez. Okay. He knocks out Henry Cejudo. He submits Ray Borg. He submitted Kyoji Horiguchi, who is likely one of the greatest flyweights in the world. He's decimated all these guys. So the only thing really left for him is to go up to 135. The reason why I agree with him and I don't scrutinize him myself for not doing it is the money's not there, man. Why would I fight TJ Dillashaw, who's a top guy? He's the 135-pound champ. You're going to market the shit out of this. You're going to put it on a pay-per-view. Why am I not getting paid any extra? Now they'll say, well, you're the champ. The champ gets paid this wage to fight these other guys. Yeah, but everybody else takes these big fights and they're all getting paid. I'm supposed to be the pound-for-pound king. I'm supposed to be, the GOAT, and I can't get a decent paycheck. I don't get pay-per-view points. I don't particularly get treated like a good champion. The UFC has done nothing for me personally, so why would I stick my neck out on the line and be a company guy? But, this sport's as much legacy as anything else. Does he want to go out as the greatest all-time, or does he want to go out as a guy that beat a lot of good guys but never cemented his legacy with a big signature victory on a large stage? I don't know. I think Demetrious Johnson pound for pound is the best fighter. If that same guy had a lightweights frame or a welterweights frame or a middleweights frame, he would be the best in all those categories. You don't get guys very often that can wrestle like that can grapple like that can strike like that. He's arguably the best striker in the flyweight division. He's shown that. He's arguably the best wrestler in the division. You could argue that Henry Cejudo with his gold medal is better than that, but they look pretty damn on par as far as I'm concerned. And he's probably the best grappler in the division. He submits people with highlight reel maneuvers. Like, he's the greatest all time, pound for pound. Would I love to see the Dillashaw fight? Absolutely. I'm really hoping it comes together. But if it doesn't, I'm not going to blame DJ. Pay the man.
All right, our boy Paquette on Twitter, longtime fan of the show, asks, hey, so I know you guys are looking for suggestions for topics to talk about on your show, so I'd love to hear your take on the whole Nazi tattoo debacle. This one's pretty simple. Cover that shit up, man.
No doubt about it.
You have a Nazi tattoo.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're going to look more. He said this is anybody who's like new to it. It's Andrea KGB Lee, UFC fighter. Her husband had spent some time in prison. When he was in prison, he got, and he's also her coach, he got a couple Nazi tattoos. I don't know if he did that for protection, safety, whatever it is.
100% he did.
Of course. And you know, that's fine. Day one that I get out of prison, you know what I'm doing? I'm covering up the Nazi tattoos because I'm out of prison now. Sure. I don't need the protection anymore. Sure. It's super simple to me. Cover them up. He's making a lot of excuses about, oh, well, it looked bad and stuff like that. It's just like, it couldn't look any worse, man. You have a fucking Nazi tattoo on your body.
Do you know
Get rid of that shit.
Do you know
it's pretty
why
simple
he went
to
to jail?
What?
Do you know why he went to jail?
Yeah, he shot somebody or something.
He's a former cop in Louisiana who shot an unarmed black man 7 times.
Jesus.
Shot him 7 times. The guy did not have a weapon on him. And Donnie gets some jail time.
Sure.
So
this guy may be reformed and all that stuff, but it's just like, get rid of
I don't care about that. He's a
get rid of the
piece of shit.
Get rid of the tattoo, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, first of all, he comes off as a giant scumbag here. I mean, you killed an unarmed person.
Of course, yeah.
You killed an unarmed person, and then you go to jail, and I don't know what he's thinking. Maybe he's thinking, oh, geez, someone's going to get some retribution on me. A cop in jail doesn't really have a good shot, especially a racist cop in jail. Get rid of the guy. Someone should shank you. That should be the course of how the world works. Unfortunately, he gets out of jail alive, probably because he gets these swastika tattoos, an SS tattoo, maybe gets some jailhouse protection. The second he gets out of jail, still a piece of shit, should get it covered up. And when you use the excuse
I don't care what you cover it up with.
I would cover it up.
As long as it's not another racist tattoo.
Yeah, but when he's like, oh, I would get it covered up, but then it would just look so trashy. I'm like, you think that I'd rather look like a Nazi than some trash bag from Louisiana. Like,
you are a trash bag from Louisiana with a Nazi tattoo, dude.
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
In his like small town of Minden, like I'm sure it's not a big deal, but now that your girlfriend is fighting on the grand scale, the UFC, now it's going to be scrutinized. You would just be a local piece of shit. Now you're an international piece of shit, right? And I don't dig it. The biggest thing is that I've seen the situation and analyzed many times. He's got the tattoos. Should he cover them up? Yeah, you agree. I agree. Everybody with a level head agrees that he should get them covered up. But let's take the debate just a little bit further. Should this guy be allowed to corner her in UFC fights? Should she change her name from KGB Lee? KGB Lee, it sounds cool, and the hammer and the sickle. But if you really now analyze the nickname, knowing what you know now about the boyfriend... She should be
Gestapo Lee.
The KGB were fucked up, man. You know how many people went missing, never to be seen ever again? It's not that cool, right? If you were Johnny S.S. Smith, it kind of sounds cool. It's not cool. Not cool. Can't do that. So, I don't know. I'm going to have to lean towards terrible choice. Maybe it kept him alive. Maybe he did what he had to do to survive. But now you're a free man. You run a gym. You are managing and coaching a fighter that's got a lot of hype that's in the UFC. It's not much to cut. And it's not enough to say, well, he wears long sleeve shirts when he goes into public. Yeah, that's a terrible excuse. You can either get it removed by laser or just tattoo right over it. Hell, Conor McGregor's training partner, Charlie Ward, his whole arm is fucking black, right? Yeah. And you know what? As stupid as that is, it doesn't really look all that bad. If I had a half an arm sleeve, or I had a whole arm sleeve anyways, and I had 2 blocks of black.
If he didn't like the look of that tattoo, he would have no qualms whatsoever covering it up. There's something weird going on with that.
What I would say is weird about it is you get out of jail, and these guys protected you in jail, and then you're out of jail, maybe they're your buddies now, and maybe you don't want to get them covered up, because then these guys would be like, you're fucking so loud. I don't know. The thing is, you should just cover it up anyways.
Cover it up. If those guys give a shit about that, they're probably not the type of people you want to hang out with anyway. Line,
though. And I liked KGB Lee, and I don't anymore, and I hope she loses all of her foreseeable fights or gets cut. It would be great. I don't care. But the classic please don't use it. It's as bad as the tainted supplement, bro. I never took that tainted supplement. When you're like, I'm not racist. I hang out with a black guy and a Chinese guy. It's like, don't pull the I have black friends, I'm not racist. Yeah, that's a terrible card to try to play.
Especially when it's a Nazi tattoo. It's like, how many Jewish friends you got?
Yeah, and then she's also like, you sorry ass mofos, you soft ass mofos. It's like, don't justify it.
Literally.
You're just
digging your own grave.
A bigger hole for yourself.
Yeah, she did not handle that very well.
I think most people are on the right side of that, and the people that aren't probably
are on the alt-right side of that.
I was gonna say are probably Colby Covington fans, but your joke much wittier. I like that.
All right, that more or less wraps it up for us. Interesting card, top to bottom. You're gonna have to make some decisions. Remember, let us know who your lock in the comment section here on YouTube. Let us know who your lock above 9,000 is.
Who's yours? I know. Could put you on the spot, man. It's actually a super tough card.
It's probably Tuivasa. I think in terms of GPPs, I think it's Tuivasa.
I'm gonna take Whittaker. Give me those 5 rounds, and
then under 70 or under 8,000, I think Clay Guida. As long as he doesn't get finished in round 1, he's getting some points, and I think he scores. Yeah. He'll score 70, 80. He'll get up to 75, 80 points. I think if he gets the win, as long as we know what happens, the pace that he puts on other guys, he's going to be able to wear down Charles Oliveira. He just has to survive that first round and avoid that submission in round 1. And I think that pace that he puts on people is going to really wear down on him. And I could see a 3rd round finish for Clay the Carpenter Guida.
Yeah. Use the wrestling to just keep the fight standing. Don't try to take this guy down. You'll probably get caught on something on the way down. He'll shoot a little bit on you, stuff those takedowns, bop him up, and he'll either have an esophagus tear or he'll be like, oh, geez. There's only about 3 minutes less in this fight. I'm out of here. It's like, man. He just rolls over.
9,000 and up, who's your lock?
9,000 and up, I'm going to take Robert Whittaker. He's got the 5 rounds. Yeah. I feel like, he's a guy. He's already defeated Yoel 1 time already. He might be able to take him out late this time. If he doesn't have that knee injury or that leg injury that affected them last time, we're going to see a better version against maybe the same version of Yoel Romero. So the over 9,000, I'm going to take Robert Whittaker. The below 7,000, or the below 8,000, I should say, I agree 100%. I think that Clay Guida is a good shot. And as well, if you're feeling grimy, if you want to go for it, Chris De La Rocha, he's actually got a good price tag on him, and Rashad Coulter is equally.
They both stink, so you might as well take the guy who's cheaper.
Yeah. They both stink. They're both terrible. Might as well take the guy, better value on him. That way, if the coin happens to be tails and Chris De La Rocha's getting the victory on Saturday, you're going to get some better value out of it. And a win like that will definitely help out your GPP plays and tournaments. So
remember, give the show a like, do all that good stuff. Share with all of your friends. Helps keep the show free for all of us. I want to thank Cody Saftic for breaking down the fights with me. I want to thank Chad Dow. The stock is rising on Chad Dow, doing all the sweet cuts for us, doing the producing for this show this week. For both of those guys, I am Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.
Mayo experience! Experience!